We are going, first off, thanks for coming here tonight. We have got a set of rules that were worked on by Jim Hoffman, Mark River, and myself. And the original reason for working on this is that there's, when you go to an old-time stunt contest, you usually, every old-time stunt contest usually has some kind of a meeting where the flyers and the judges talk about, well, how are you going to judge this, and how are you going to mark that, and where is level flight, and things like that. We thought it would be, and you know, we can't go back and recreate the 1952 rules. We certainly can't, you know, re-edit them to clarify things that didn't make sense or anything like that. But our approach was to say, we think we can write a judge's guide that judges can use to consistently interpret what the 52 pattern says, so that your contest is run the same as his, is run the same as his. Everybody walks in on the same planet, the same playing field. Okay, that was the guiding principle.
Go around the other door.
Now, okay, all right. Okay. Okay, guys, you grab a paper here. So here we are, we're trying to get everybody talking a common language about the old time pattern. Meanwhile, when we started looking at how do you run an old time stunt event, well, there was two separate documents that did that. There was, of course, the 1952 rule book, and there was a set of PAMPA rules, and I was writing this from a PAMPA perspective. I'm not involved with the GSCB or anything like that, so it's just looking at it from a PAMPA perspective that a lot of people use. There were a lot of definitions about what airplanes are legal, can you modify them, can you not modify them, and, you know, you assign bonus points for certain factors and things like that. And they were two separate documents, which meant that they weren't written of one, you know, with one mind. So this expanded into a thing that's, let's take the PAMPA rules, they were last updated in, I think, 2012 or something like that. Let's just do a straightforward cleanup on that. And then let's like marry it to this judge's guide that we're trying to do. So when you read the document, it all looks like it came out at the same time, okay? And then there were other things, like in the PAMPA rules and everything, that made references to these other documents. Look at the MISCI list, look at this list or that list, you know, and we thought, gee, there ought to be a way, you know, if you have a document, we should be able to put some of that information into that same main document. And then in the PAMPA rules, there was something in there, a provision in there saying, if you want to make a change to this, you know, submit a change request and everything like that. But there was no form for that, no form or format. There was no ongoing record, if you will, of anything that had been approved or anything like that. I already mentioned what we went through. There was no active list of specific designs that have been approved. There were mentions in different standards. Oh, Atom Special is legal. Oh, MAPM 56 is legal. You know, things like that. But nobody had really collected them down. Well, we tried to find a bucket, if you will, to put all that in. So we're trying to identify eligible airplanes, or where to find information on it. We tried to identify what the rules were, try to write them all in one line, and then provide this judge's guide so that when you get to a contest, wherever you are in the country, you're going to follow something that everybody is working to the same page, or the same, everybody's singing from the same music, right? Sound good so far? All right, so here we are in the road of good intentions, all right? So that when I say we, this has been bugging me for a long time. I got started with somebody, I was chatting with Jim, and he said, well, let's get Mark involved. Well, Mark is, you know, you've been ESE judge several times and things like that. You actually fly old time? I didn't know that. Okay, but you judge and everything like that.
I have never flown an old time pattern, so it eminently qualifies me to write the guide.
But as a judge, you brought that perspective, you know, but what do you do, and you know, where do the problems come up and stuff like that. And I have both judged it and flown it, and it's always, you know, when you have a judges meeting, you should be talking about things like who's flying first, what circle we using, you know, stuff like that. You shouldn't be talking about, where's level of flight, you know? That's the kind of thing we're trying to get to, you know?
Do you have to
Like
wait
our-
to start the pattern?
Yeah, that's
Is that
it.
an official thing?
That's it. Things like that. And so, again, here we go. Now with having Jim Hoffman and Mark involved, they're both deeply involved in BSC. And my feeling is that the BSC is the premier old-time contest, single old-time contest in the country. And so what they do, they've evolved to doing it in a certain way, and we need to be, you know, cognizant of that when we're doing that and make sure we're doing, and that, you know, some of that will come up later on. One thing, and we made an attachment in here, there's already been some discussion on it, as you know, that there are at least, how many score sheets did you find for old time stunt? At least 3, isn't it?
At least 3.
Yeah. And when you write a document, you're gonna make a recommendation, you don't recommend 3, you recommend 1, all right? And the one that we recommended actually is the one that they use at DSC, which is kind of interesting because they're not using that one tomorrow, all right? And that there isn't anything that's incompatible with that. So that was the gist, that's the background, that's how we got started on this.
Would you repeat that last paragraph? The score sheet we're using tomorrow is not gonna be this one.
It's not directly, it's not the sheet that's in this document. It's a sheet that's been used traditionally. It's an East, I'll call it an East Coast sheet.
I understand
Yeah,
that.
okay,
I'm with you.
It is one of the 3 that John has found at,
Okay.
and everything like that. It's not the one they use at DSC, it is the one they use at Brodak.
I'm with you. That's cool.
Alright. So, there we have it. Do we want to, I don't know if we want to walk through every single item on here, or anything like that. I will just say that there's no, I don't think there's any surprises in the model requirements or things we've talked about in the past. If you build the airplane, it should represent the structure. If you can't see the structural change, it's legal, all right? If you put extra ribs or planking or something like that, you're treading on dangerous ground. You can't change the airfoil, you can't put a big tail on it or something like that. It's supposed to be what the airplane is. Landing gear has to be in the original place, things like that. We did add some language in there about, you know, to call it boilerplate kind of things that will, you know, current AMA regulations for safety, line sizes, things like that. And rather than, you know, redefine all of that, it would be, you know, the rules that apply in regular PA for line sizes and things like that, they should apply here.
Well, now that's changed, so you can use anything you want.
Exactly.
I was passing.
Or like I say, I fly Spectra lines and party like it's 1950, so.
And by saying current, you're gonna end up with whatever's current.
I'm sorry.
When you say current AMA regulations, if they change later on,
Exactly.
it's still the same.
Well, that's exactly it.
You're not in.
And if it changed in a totally incompatible way, maybe we'd have to do something, but, you know, the basic rules. I don't wanna be the guy who explains why this event is run differently than our main event, all right? You know, we have the rules that are, you know, that are sanctioned by the national organization regarding the, you know, safety-oriented things like line sizes and pull tests and stuff like that. We have we got no business messing with that.
I saw somewhere when I read through here, an inconsistency, at least it hit me as that at the time I was reading it. Could you hear me? Could you hear what I was saying?
Yeah.
Because I don't.
You said the inconsistency, I'm waiting for what that
And
is.
right here in item 4.0 on page 3 of 24, it says appearance points shall not apply. And somewhere else in this dictum, there's something that said, builder and model rules applied, and you must have, and we will award appearance points. I read that in here last night.
I think we had, there has always been something, in there that said that the builder of the model is qualified for a bonus, but if that airplane is shared by 3 or 4 people, only the builder gets credit for it.
Well, that's another
Yeah.
aspect of it.
Mhm. I think you're probably looking under, the bonus points part. Let's see if we can do that.
No, ignition is equal on this score sheet here.
That's the builder of the
You
model.
have a BOM On the score sheet.
Mhm.
Yep, down toward the bottom.
0 or 5.
Yeah, and that, again, that's something they've done at BSC because they had people
Build a
who were
model on
sharing
it?
an airplane.
Oh, for sure.
Now, it's interesting, if you look at the 52 yearbook, on page 5, right in the middle, under appearance, model showed the judge for appearance, completeness, and grade of fly.
Mhm.
It's interesting, isn't it?
That's what they used to do.
Yeah.
And I have never heard of anybody using appearance points in old times on the way we apply it today.
Okay,
And
so
I'm getting lots of shaking heads and stuff.
appearance points is kaput.
Yeah, appearance points aren't there, but you still get credit if you built the model. If you're gonna compete at BSC and there's 5 people
Oh.
flying your airplane,
Yes.
yeah, that's where that came from in the first place. All right?
It doesn't
Yeah.
it doesn't apply to anywhere else in the world.
If you don't want it to. If you go the,
CD can make any changes they want. So I'll just post it.
mhm. You can have your pilot's meeting and decide, you know what, I don't care if you all fly the same airplane. You know, everybody's gonna, and, you know, nobody's gonna get credit for building it, even if you actually did build it.
Yeah.
If you wanna do that, that is CD's discretion. All right? Okay, no flat bonus, 5 points, that's old news. I think Miskey started that at 20 points, didn't he, Phil? It was
Think
way
so.
up there, and over the years, it keeps creeping down. Let's see, engine bonus, 10 points for spark ignition, original spark ignition. Now, we did make one small change there. Under the existing rules in PAMPA, and I think in the circle burners, you got credit for running an original ignition engine, but you could not take a modern engine and make an ignition.
Yeah.
You did not qualify for the ignition bonus. Well, I applied that same thinking and said, well, gee, you can get credit for 5 points for a diesel engine, but if you put a Davis diesel head on a modern engine, that doesn't qualify. I
That's
think that's the
unfortunate.
same thing,
Yeah.
yeah.
I wanted to take 20 points off electric, but then it's over.
Yeah, what is with that? They didn't have electric flying back then.
Well, actually, we had a really good discussion, actually, John brought up a good point about, seeing if we could do some kind of formula for period accurate engines and stuff like that. And I took a stab at it, and it's really, really confusing. Take a Fox 35, tell me what a period correct Fox 35 is,
3-volt sand cast.
and what's inside of it.
Whatever
Whatever
you-
Henry. You did it.
Whatever you want.
You know,
Meonite piston and.
what about a 2-volt sand cast? And oh, by the way, the die-cast engine came out before the end of 1952. The original smooth case, thin fin, it's got kind of like, it's got like extra spacing in the fins and stuff. You can really get
But
tangled
that
up
had
in
nothing to do with
shorts.
electric. Electric, they didn't fly back then.
There was an article in Aeromodeler in 1948.
And it was
showing-
competitive.
Showing that it was showing how to build an electric control line model.
They ran the voltage down the wire.
Okay, as long as you do that, you're in.
It was a,
Well, the reason I could